This is your Congressman D.S. Saund reporting from the nation's capital. This week I had the privilege of being host to two representatives from Imperial County. Mr. Ray Langley, the chairman of the Board of Supervisors representing the Holtville area, and old veteran public servant of Imperial County, Cy Carey, representing District Number 4. Mr. Langley and Mr. Carey came over to Washington, D.C. at my invitation. There are many problems concerning Imperial Valley which are pending now in Washington for decision by the departments of the administration or by legislation in Congress. I thought it was only fitting that I should have the opportunity to consult with the leaders of Imperial County and get first-hand latest information in regard to these problems. Now, Mr. Langley, since you have been here, have you enjoyed your visit in Washington, D.C.?
Yes, Judge, this has been a very interesting visit. I'm sure that we've enjoyed everything. We've enjoyed going through the buildings. We enjoyed the meeting in the House of Representatives and also in the Senate.
I know that there was some interesting debate going on in the House of Representatives where something very unusual when a dispute in the election between two members from the 5th District of Indiana was being resolved. I know you must have had good experience about that.
It was a wonderful experience to get in on this dramatic affair and see the contest ended and the new man sworn in office. And we was very lucky to be there when that particular incident arose.
Cy, my latest Washington report to the people of Riverside and Imperial counties is requesting the communities in my area to arrange to send groups of students, young men and women, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts to Washington, D.C. for a tour of the nation's capital. What have you observed here since you came to Washington?
Well, I never saw so many Girl Scouts in all my life as I've seen in Washington this trip. I think it's wonderful that the young folks of our country have the opportunity to come back here and view our government in operation at first hand, besides looking through the wonderful, wonderful buildings you have here in Washington, D.C., and learning something about our country firsthand, which you'd never get out of a book at home.
So there was one thing yesterday that children from some district were on the Capitol steps.
That's right.
And there was half the group was on one side and the other half on the other side, and they were singing. It was very interesting to see these children there on the steps.
I know that these youngsters, when they come to the nation's capital, they have a chance to see their government in action. There are special tours are arranged for them, and then they see the historic sites and the monuments of Washington, D.C. It leaves an indelible impression upon their minds. I hope the people of Riverside and Imperial counties do arrange to send these groups of youngsters to the nation's capital in the years to come. I know that one of the problems which have been facing me here is how to resolve the disposition of the site of the Hart Mineral Spa in Imperial County. And I wanted to have the members of the Board of Supervisors come over here and consult with the leaders in the Bureau of Land Management and give them their own personal views on that particular project. Now, Cy, you met with the Associate Director of the Bureau of Land Management in my office yesterday. What are your comments on that meeting?
We met with Mr. Homuth and at the department, and I imagine an attorney, Mr. McCarthy, from the department. They were very kind, very courteous to us, and explained all the problems faced in disposition of this spa. And they explained to us our choices and left the decision up to us, which we will make and refer to you shortly. But they were very kind to us and explained the whole thing to us as to what we can do and what we cannot do in that mineral spa at the present time, according to the law, which is only right that we should abide by the present laws.
Ray, what impression did Mr. Hawkmouth leave with you? You know, sometimes people want to cooperate and sometimes they always find ways why certain things cannot be done. What did you think was the attitude of Mr. Hawkmouth so far as the relationship with Imperial County is concerned?
Well, he seemed to want to cooperate in every way possible. He explained the different things that could happen, the different ways that we could get possession of the mineral hot spa, and even though we didn't know too much about all the laws that the land management operate under, why he was very patient in explaining all of these different methods to us.
Well, Mr. Hawkmouth showed us, and very plainly, that according to the laws on the statute books today, the Bureau of Land Management can lease or sell the hot mineral spa at special rates, 70% discount, to a public agency or some non-profit organization. The County of Imperial will have the opportunity to buy and particularly to lease that property at a very nominal charge. But there will be this restriction that they could not sublease it or sell it to any individuals who will have a chance to make any profit out of it. It has to be a non-profit organization. And I'm glad that you had a chance to talk with them. Now going back, you can take it up with your Board of Supervisors and do whatever you wish to do with it. And I'm certain that the Bureau of Land Management will cooperate.
I find one thing, Judge, that talking to this gentleman yesterday, that people get a different idea of our government. These men back here are just common citizens as you and I, and they're most cooperative. And because they have a good position in the government, they don't try and assert any authority and push you around. I think they're very, very courteous and very kind.
Well, I'm glad that you got that impression, Si. And now, I know the Board of Supervisors are very anxious to complete the road to the Imperial Dam, which many citizens want to use. And the one difficulty has been that a portion of that road will lie on property now under the management of the Bureau of Reclamation. Well, the Board of Supervisors has been in correspondence with the department for a long time. Yesterday, we finally came to grips with that situation, and I believe that with the information that Mr. Langley and Mr. Carey supplied to the department, we may be able to resolve that issue within a few days. And after that is done, I hope that you can get along with your program of building that road. I know that, Si, you told me about the situation of the sewage from Mexicali. That has been a vexatious problem for all of the citizens of Imperial County, and particularly to me ever since I came to Congress. I've been fighting about it through the State Department with the Mexican officials for 4 years. We have had promises, we have been shown the documents where Mexico City has given orders and appropriate money to start building the sewage plant, but it never gets started. I will, Mr. Langley, go to Mexico City shortly on another project. I am the chairman of the subcommittee which visited Mexico City this year, and next year we're going to be hosts to the delegates from the Mexican Congress to come to the United States. I and another senator will go to Mexico City shortly to make arrangements for this meeting next year, and let me assure you that I'm going to take it up through the ambassador with the Mexican officials right there in Mexico City and try to get something done. I know how important that problem is.
I think your efforts back there would be greatly appreciated by the citizens of Imperial County, Judge.
I know that there was one purpose I needed you here badly. Now, there have been rumors, there has been talk that the naval station at El Centro might be closed and the parachute facilities moved over to a place in New Mexico. Now, that is in line with the rumors that there are about over 70 bases throughout the United States which are going to be closed. I asked you to come over here at this particular time because I had an application before the Department of Defense, and I wanted you to appear there personally to tell about the need of the base in El Centro and about the particular facilities which we in the desert can afford for parachute experiments. But before you came here, in fact on the same day that you arrived, I received conclusive information that there is no danger of the naval station in El Centro being closed in the near future. In fact, we have assurances that the work there might be increased. So that is the reason why I did not have to take you to the Secretary of Defense. We had good news about that. Also, it happened that while you were sitting in my office, I received the telephone call about the new building in Calexico. Now that needed the approval of the committee in the House of Representatives and the Senate. Apparently we have received that approval. In the near future, the citizens of Imperial Valley will find out that a new 350,000 building will be constructed in place of the old center of immigration in Calexico.
That'd be a big thing down there for Calexico, I tell you right now.
Well, Mr. Kavanaugh will be very pleased with that news.
Yes, indeed.
Well, I am certainly thankful to you, gentlemen, to come over to Washington, D.C. and give me the opportunity to introduce you to many of my colleagues and for you to find out firsthand the problems which face your own community and the rest of the nation right here in Washington. I hope this is not the last visit that you will make here during my term in Congress. There is nothing more important than the leaders back home to know personally how these matters are handled in Washington, D.C. and give the benefit of their own knowledge and experience directly to the chairman of the committee and to the members of the administration.
Good.
Well, thank you very kindly.
You have been very,
come over
very
here.
kind to us, and we appreciate it very, very much, Judge, and we know that you are at all times working for the best interest of your district.
Well, thank you very much. Goodbye. This is your Congressman D.S. Saund reporting from the nation's capital. I have as my guest one of the most powerful and popular leaders of Congress, the chairman of the Interstate and Foreign Affairs Committee, the Honorable Orrin Harris of Arkansas.
Thank you, Judge. It's nice to be with you. I appreciate your invitation to participate in this program and to bring greetings to your fine constituency in California.
Well, I'm deeply grateful that you could find time to come over here and chat with my people in Riverside and Imperial County, Chairman Harris. Chairman Harris's committee has charge of many facets of American business life, and among them is the fact that his committee has the jurisdiction over what we call the regulatory agencies, including the Interstate Commerce Commission and the Federal Communications Commission. Mr. Chairman, some time back you made a statement in the House of Representatives that your committee is going to come out with a bill to regulate the programs over television and radio. Can you tell me what is the jurisdiction which your committee and the Congress of the United States has over the regulation of the television and radio networks and other stations?
Judge, my Committee on Interstate and Foreign Commerce of the House of Representatives does have legislative jurisdiction over many of the major regulatory agencies of the government. The 6 major regulatory agencies come under our jurisdiction, some of which you have just mentioned. Our special committee to investigate these agencies under the direction of the Congress to keep an oversight on the agencies under our jurisdiction has been very active in the last 4 years, trying to find out if these agencies are administering the laws as the Congress intended originally, and whether or not there are inadequacies under present law, and if so, what should be done to correct such inadequacies. We have given a lot of attention to the Federal Communication Commission, much of which has been in the press and over such facilities as this. In connection with that work, we have made a good many reports. We have recommended legislation. We have tried to bring about a lot of improvements in the processes of this agency as well as others. Now, there has been a lot of interest in programming. We have had some comments in our reports, and in the course of our investigation, we have discussed programming because it is of vital concern to the American people. But insofar as the government injecting itself into the jurisdiction or control of programming, we have not done that. As a matter of fact, the present law, since its inception, has made it specific that there should be no censorship. Now, that doesn't mean that we do not, as a branch of the government, interest ourselves in programming. We do require, under law, that these facilities be used in the public interest. Programming, of course, becomes a public interest question. So consequently, we require each of these facilities, that is television and radio stations, to come back to the Federal Communication Commission every 3 years for a renewal of their license. At that time, they give an accounting of the public service that they have rendered to a particular community. It is in that way that these matters are brought to the attention of the appropriate regulatory agency. But I emphasize that we have never permitted censorship, and I do not think that, in my own judgment, that the government should inject itself into that kind of control of these facilities. I think it would be bad. It's against, contrary to our system altogether.
I agree with you, Mr. Harris, and you know that the members of Congress have always gone along with you with any bills which you have brought out from your committee, and I, as far as I can remember, I have always voted with you because...
You have, and I think that I might say here that I'm very grateful for the support that the Congress has given us, and it does give me encouragement that our recommendations and our effort toward improving these procedures and bringing better service to the American people is certainly justified.
Well, Mr. Chairman, of course you know that there's a great deal of dissatisfaction throughout the country, and that includes my own particular district, about the programs which are seen on the television in the homes of the American public. Is there anything that you are planning to correct that situation?
I do not know of any way that it can be corrected other than I have just mentioned, because as a matter of fact, we do hear a lot of complaints, and it's justified in some instances. But one of the reasons that there are so much complaint is because of the competition in this field. Now, when you take the strong competition that these stations provide for other media, why, that raises this question of easy complaints. And then within the industry itself, there is keen competition between the 4 stations or more, sometimes less, in any given market. But by and large, when we consider the type of entertainment and educational programs and programming that we have, that they provide for the American people, there is nothing that can compare with it in any country in the world. This is under our system of free competitive enterprise. We cannot anymore tie down the future service of these facilities to the American people than we can the newspapers of the country. We certainly don't find everyone agreeing with what they read in the newspapers. So competition is the factor, other than I've mentioned, that will require the stations themselves and the networks to try to improve their programs all along. Now, in addition to that, the reaction to the viewing public is important too. And as long as the viewing public reacts as they have been doing, I think there will be efforts for better programming to satisfy the American people.
Mr. Chairman, could you remember about how much money the federal government has contributed towards making airplane service safe during the last year, approximately?
It would be difficult to estimate the dollars and cents that has gone into our safety program in aviation. That comes, of course, under the Civil Aeronautics Board, which is another major regulatory agency that comes under our jurisdiction. And it's our duty to see, and our responsibility, that service is provided to the public and is safe as possible. I think it might be of interest to your very fine constituency to say to you, Judge, that aviation travel, commercial aviation travel, is the safest mode of travel we have in America. That includes automobiles, that is highway motor, it includes railroads and all, and I think when the overall mileage is taken in, per passenger mile is taken into consideration, notwithstanding that we have had some accident and some tragic accident, it is generally the safest travel there is. We have conducted investigations ourselves. The Federal Aviation Agency has expended a great deal of funds in aviation safety. The board has done its job in investigating these, and they have rather a large force in this program at all times. So we are spending substantial sums of money, but I couldn't estimate just the dollars and cents in 1 year, because it is an accumulative problem from year to year. But we are improving all the time.
Mr. Chairman, you'll recall that during the past 4 years that I've been a member of Congress, I've come to you many a time for help for improvement of the airport facilities in my own congressional district.
Judge, I do not know of anybody in this Congress that's been more diligent in looking after his constituents than you have, and yes, you have been to our committee on a number of occasions in the last few years, and I remember for you our committee on 2 different occasions has reported bills that would be highly beneficial, were highly beneficial to your area.
I should certainly do appreciate your courtesy at all time. I know that during the last 4 years, the federal government has contributed little over $1 million for improving the facilities at the airports in my own congressional district. I know that the Riverside Municipal Airport received $215,000. Imperial County Airport, $207,000. Ryan Hammett Airport, $94,000. And Calexico Municipal Airport, $74,000. And last week, I announced that $500,000 is going to be spent for the improvement of the airport in Palm Springs. And judging from this record, I can say this, that your committee, Mr. Chairman, has been extremely helpful to the people of my congressional district, which is a growing community with an expanding population and large demand for airport safety and whatnot.
Yes, there is a lot of interest in this program in your state. California is growing and expanding all the time, and undoubtedly California has the greatest activity in the field of aviation in the other state in the Union, in my judgment now, that when you consider not only aviation service itself, but the aircraft industry that you have out there. So the airport program is a part of our jurisdiction. Incidentally, on tomorrow, the airport program expires, and we are now in the process of continuing this program for another 5 years. As soon as we get back following the 4th of July, we will have another bill on the floor of the House, which I'm sure you will support, and it's an imperative situation that will extend this program for another 5 years.
I know, Mr. Chairman, that you'll have my support, and you'll have the support of the people of Riverside and Imperial counties in your attitude towards the programming on television and radio facilities. I know and I agree with you that we must preserve a free enterprise system and at the same time use moral pressure if we can in order to secure for our people better programs in their homes. I'm sincerely thankful to you, Mr. Chairman, for finding time from your very busy schedule to chat with the people of Riverside and Imperial counties.
Thank you for inviting me to be with you. It's a
thank you.
pleasure to have participated on this program with you.
Well, thank you very kindly.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the Honorable Ed Edmondson, Member of Congress from Oklahoma, speaking in behalf of the re-election of Congressman D.S. Saund. Mr. Edmondson.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a real privilege to speak in behalf of a colleague in the House of Representatives for whom every member of the House, on both the Democratic and Republican sides of the aisle, has a genuine respect and regard. I'm speaking of Congressman D.S. Saund, with whom I have served for the past 3 years on the House Committee on Interior and Insular Affairs. Congressman Saund is a man who effectively and vigorously represents the people of his district. But we in Oklahoma have been particularly appreciative of his national point of view on problems that affect our state and affect it vitally. Water, of course, is a major problem for Oklahoma, and Judge Saund has demonstrated on the Interior Committee an understanding of the nation's need for water resource development, which is one of the finest in the Congress. He has been a tremendous help not only to his own district with vigorous representation, but to districts all over the country where the problem of good water for community use, for industrial use, and for agriculture has been a major problem. I've appreciated the opportunity to serve with Judge Saund, and I know that he has been worthy of the people of his district.